Alright, you have found it. It is the Valley's most in-depth weather forecast video, the Wednesday evening edition. We had kind of a surprise power outage in downtown Youngstown today. It was a planned outage, but they only gave us a couple hours of a heads up that we were going to lose power, and so we had to kind of scramble to do like a Facebook Live newscast at 6 o'clock, and then we did a full edition of 21 News at 7. Thanks to everyone for their patience. I got a few questions. Hey, why don't we have a generator? Well, when we know it's coming, we get generators on site, and that's not a problem, but when we only have a couple of hours notice, not so much. So we had to kind of scramble and improvise, but hopefully you tuned in on Facebook at 6 or on the air and on our apps at 7. All right, so let's get to it, and we've got a lot to talk about again this evening before we get to the upcoming wintry intrigue. Let's talk about the increase in ice cover on the Great Lakes over the last couple of weeks. We've started to see the ice coverage increase fairly dramatically, especially just in the last few days. Now the western end of Lake Erie has a pretty decent amount of ice. Now, you don't want to walk out on this. It's not very thick. But we're starting to see the ice coverage expand not only on Lake Erie, but the western end of Lake Huron as well. Some of the shallower bays, definitely a decent amount of ice, even a little tenuous ice starting to show up on southern Lake Michigan around the Chicago area. So, just a sign of the season progressing. We're up to 13.4% ice coverage on the lakes. I'm expecting that number to increase fairly substantially over the next couple of weeks. We've got some serious cold, I think, coming our way before January is through. We're going to talk about the longer range at the end of the video. Because our equipment was down for a time today, we did not get any numbers in this graphic, unfortunately, but the high today was 41, as expected, about 7 degrees above average, and a nice improvement over the last few days. All right, the radar this evening shows a little bit of green, a little bit of blue has tried to show up occasionally with this. A couple of sprinkles, a couple of flurries will be a possibility as we head through the overnight hours. Don't think it'll be anything all that impactful. Now, what will become the major winter storm for the southern tier of states, the mid-Atlantic states, the Tennessee Valley, parts of the Ohio Valley, parts of New England? There's going to be millions and millions of people impacted by this. The beginnings of it just about to come into the Pacific Northwest. It is this guy, of course, right here on the water vapor imagery, big curly Q off the coast of Washington and Oregon. That low-pressure system will eventually make the turn south and pick up some Gulf of Mexico moisture and become a big-ticket item for a lot of people. In the meantime, we have kind of a minor item heading our way tomorrow. This dashed black line is a trough of low pressure. This is going to pivot through with little fanfare during the daylight hours tomorrow, but by about sunset or so tomorrow evening, I think some precipitation will try to be wrung out of this. The models just today started cluing in on the potential for some decent precipitation rates for a time Thursday evening. Now, the latest run of our model here just shows green, but I think there will be some wet snow trying to mix in. It may even just go over to big wet snowflakes for a time for a few hours Thursday evening. If it comes down hard enough, which is a possibility, we could see some light accumulations out of this, maybe a slushy inch or so, mostly on the non-paved surfaces. Air temperatures will be close to 32, 33. The dew point will be around 32, 33. And so this is going to have a hard time sticking on a lot of paved surfaces, unless it comes down super hard. But I don't think it'll have any trouble sticking to your car top and your deck and grass and things like that. Again, maybe even an inch or so in some spots. Here's our next cold front. Then on Friday, and clouds will break for a little afternoon sun, but it won't help us much. This is going to be an air mass kind of like we had earlier on this week, where it's in the 20s most of Friday, not much better than 20 on Saturday. Now, by Saturday morning, the makings of our winter storm out here across the mid-Mississippi Valley, this is going to dive into the south and then make the turn to the north. The big question for us has always been, how soon will it make that turn off to the north? If it makes the turn too late and it's closer to the East Coast, then we're on the very fringes of it. If it makes the turn a little bit sooner and tracks a little more towards eastern Pennsylvania, east central Pennsylvania, then that puts us in a pretty good position to get a decent amount of snow. So those are question marks still at this point. Before we get to all the intrigue for Sunday into Monday, as I mentioned, with tomorrow evening's wet snow, wouldn't be surprised if we had some small accumulations. In fact, here is the model spread. The GFS is the leader in the clubhouse here with close to an inch of slushy snow. NAM has about a half an inch or so, and then 3 of our other models are down near the bottom. So, it's not going to be much, but if it snows at a decent enough rate, again, not going to be surprised if we have some modest or light accumulations tomorrow evening. All right, when I showed you this graphic yesterday, I had the red area off to the east across kind of like this. We've shifted it to the west today, and for good reason. The models have definitely come into better agreement today, and actually, for a change, it happens sometimes, but not super often, the European model and the UK Met model have kind of shifted more in favor of what the GFS had earlier on this week. A lot of times we see the GFS kind of caving to the European model. The Europeans, most of the time, the superior model, but not always. And sometimes the GFS clues onto an idea sooner than the Euro, and that seems to be the case. Now, the final track of this system is not set in stone, that is for sure, but certainly the odds are more in favor now than they were 24 hours ago of us being in the moderate to high impact zone across eastern Ohio and western PA. And when I had a lot of views on my video last evening on these videos that we talk a lot about winter weather. I get a lot of viewers, not necessarily from our television viewing area, and for those of you watching and maybe don't watch my videos all that often, I'm a TV meteorologist in Youngstown, Ohio, and so my focus is mostly on eastern Ohio and western PA. I talk a lot about national stories and things like that. But when I say around here or in our vicinity or in our TV viewing area, that's what I'm talking about. The Youngstown area in eastern Ohio and into far western Pennsylvania. So I got to keep that in mind sometimes where some of these videos I have a bigger audience than just your typical evening on Weather for Weather Geeks. When we're talking about winter storms in particular, I get a lot of viewers from some places that aren't even close to Youngstown, Ohio. So here's what we know and don't know on this Wednesday evening. We're still a good, let's see here, 4 days? 4 days? Yeah, 4 days out from the snow probably starting to impact us. What we know, this will be a major winter storm for the southern and eastern U.S. Sunday and into Monday. The storm is going to happen. It's going to be there. Locally, it remains to be seen whether we're in kind of the heart of the heavy snow or if the heavy snow stays mostly to our east. Local timing, whether we get grazed or whether we're kind of in the thick of it, it's mostly going to be about sunset Sunday through about sunrise on Monday. And because all the potential tracks are far enough to the east, it looks like at this point we wouldn't have any issues with mixed precipitation. It would be all snow. Now, if there were to be more of a westward trend, that might change things. But as it looks right now, pretty confident that this would be all snow. We don't know the accumulation numbers. We're not going to have those in our forecast until Friday. The precise track of the system is unknown, and it will be very, very important because a 75-mile jog in that track could make a big difference in this being kind of a nuisance event or a, boy, the snowblowers are really getting a workout Monday morning kind of event. The exact track will be very, very important. What I wanted to show you is a couple of models this evening. This is the forecast trend off the GFS model for the same time of day. This is valid for late Sunday afternoon, and I'm just going to let this roll a few times. What we're looking at is the trend over the last several runs of the GFS, and you can see the stark westward shift with each successive run. This thing was out to sea a handful of runs of the model ago, which is why Monday evening we weren't really talking about this. It took until Tuesday before we started to really clue in on this, and it's kind of the same thing on the European model. When you look at the trends over the last several runs, this went from being out over the Atlantic to close to the eastern seaboard, and now far enough to the west that it puts us perhaps in a better position for some decent snows. Again, this is valid Sunday evening. It's not for the duration of the storm, but at a specific time frame Sunday evening. So tonight's run of the European ensemble modeling odds of 3 inches or more. This is just off the European ensemble. The highest odds continue to be to our east, although the odds again have shifted to the west compared to 24 hours ago. It still kind of paints us as on the fringes here. It's almost a no-brainer that a lot of places are going to get 3 inches plus across the central Appalachians, across eastern PA, up into the Hudson Valley as well. Eastern Ohio, western PA, fringes. According to this set of modeling, the odds of 3 inches or more. Again, accumulation numbers won't be in our official forecasts until Friday. Until then, we're going to continue showing you some model information on this video and speculate a little bit, but you're not going to see official numbers from me on TV or on our app until we're about 48 hours away from the snow getting underway. All right, odds are definitely increasing, and confidence is increasing in a major Arctic outbreak during the last 10 days of January. This is, to tonight's run of the European model. Look at these temperature anomalies by about Monday the 24th, Tuesday the 25th. Sometimes we call this Barney purple. Barney the purple dinosaur, right? We don't like to see purple on these weather maps. This is a legit cold air mass, and it has the potential to be our coldest weather we've had in at least a couple of years around here, coming up in about 2 weeks or a little less than 2 weeks. So this is about 12 days away. And there's very good model agreement on that, so confidence is really starting to increase that we've got some serious cold coming our way to close out January, that last 10 days of the month. Still think February will be different. Don't think that once it turns pretty cold at the end of the month, it will stay that way all the way through February. All right, that'll do it for me tonight. We're over 10 minutes on this video. That's long enough. Thanks for watching tonight. I'll see you back here